Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sal. Today we're going to be breaking down, we're in for a treat, a two-game NBA slate. God, I never thought I'd say that. After 2 nights of just terrible showdown slates, and yes, they're terrible, unless you won a lot of money, which, shout out somebody in my DMs, reached out to me, said that they watched the video a few nights back. They were not leaving money on the table in their showdown lineup. Don't know how many lineups they entered. It makes it seem like just not a lot, which is probably a good thing. And they ended up leaving some money on the table, went with McCollum in the captain spot, which was needed, and tied for first with only 3 people. So, yeah, rack in that $50,000 plus dollars. Congratulations once again. Do not want to give away the identity of the person, but that is awesome. Nice job. I'm happy that's all you, by the way, saying like, oh, this was your video, or just saying thank you for the help. I appreciate that you watched the video. You gave me that view. Thank you for whatever that was, the penny of the view. But no, I greatly appreciate it. I'm happy. That's why I started doing this content, because I just wanted to kind of voice my opinions on some things that I thought were optimal and see if anybody would actually take it and utilize it. And it's actually nice to see somebody utilize it, and then it paid off. So it's not going to pay off every single night, $50,000 for somebody, right? That's incredible. That's the top win that I've had somebody reach out to me saying that I assisted with, but that's all you. You were the one who took the action and actually used the information. So great job. But yeah, good way to start the show. It is Friday. It is May 3rd. Yes, we are into May on the Northeast. It is 8 a.m., right exactly, 8 a.m. here. Friday, yeah, I graduate Sunday from college. 5-year master's program is all done. Pretty crazy. It is humid here. It is nice, so I want to get this video done, get it up for you guys and girls, and yeah, we'll head there. So if you could hit me with a like button before this thing starts, I appreciate that. Around 2,000 people a day seeing these. Fridays usually, it could go down or worse. I don't know. Some people, Fridays you're doing other things and playing NBA DFS, but the playoffs, tons of eyes on these videos, so greatly appreciate that thumbs up. And please, please, please subscribe. We are now around only 130, 140 subscribers away from 4,000. Let's try and get it by graduation day, right? Let's try and get it by Sunday. A nice little gift. It'd be great. The number itself doesn't really mean anything, but these nice round thousands, for some reason, just stand out, right? Makes sense. So thank you guys. Thank you, girls. Let's get right into it. Tons of free stuff on the channel down below. And let's go. So, injury dashboard. No real impactful news. Well, no, that's not true. There's some impactful news, but nothing like super major. Torrey Craig, we saw him break his nose. They ruled him out. At least, like, if you were watching the game, they said, oh, he will not return, broken bone. He might not be back for the series. They said that really quick. The guy comes back out 5 minutes later wearing a mask with a broken nose. He's probable today. And we'll break that into who that's going to affect. Pretty much the last game, and we've had 2 games now with Malik Beasley seeing elevated minutes. So he's a guy that I'm very quick to, even at his cheap price point, say, I'm going to stay away from that. And sure, he can go out and play 27 minutes. Malone said that he likes Beasley's defense on Lillard, so that's a good thing. That probably means more minutes. But 2 games ago, and I'm probably getting a little ahead of myself, but I feel like I'll say this. Anyway, so 2 games ago, Torrey Craig got in foul trouble. I think like 3 or 4 fouls in the first. I think it was 3 fouls in the first half. So Beasley saw 28 minutes. He got more minutes. The last game, Torrey Craig had to come out for like 5 or 6 minutes in that game, which he would have played majority of those. Malik Beasley goes out, gets 27. So I think Beasley's minutes are probably going to be 22 on most nights that Craig plays the whole game. Back-to-back games that Craig didn't get his full run because of foul trouble and because of an injury. So people are going to see that, and I think that's a quick spot that we can gain an edge on and just not go there, because even if he does do well, he's at elevated ownership. So most nights that's not going to pay off. Some other guys, Will Barton didn't really see an impact when Torrey Craig came out, but either way, Craig being healthy should impact him a little bit. Mo Harkless is questionable. So the only real question mark we have today is Mo Harkless, and he only played 13 minutes in the last game before he got injured and didn't return. And a couple things to note. I wrote down, I went to Popcorn Machine. I was doing a lot of Popcorn Machine because we had the blowout in the Celtics game, so I want to see how that affected some players' minutes and see if we could project anything for today. So Mo Harkless, Jake Layman came in and started the second half for him. Layman played 6 minutes when he started, and that was it. So for the most part, if Harkless is out, which right now I'm projecting him out because I think it's easier for me, at least in the projections, for those of you who get my projections. Humble plug, you can go to Patreon, get my projections. They're only like $8 for like forever, for the month, for the rest of the NBA playoffs pretty much. You can get them there. Those are the ones that I use when I build my lineups and try and decide between players, identify value. Or you could also go there if you could donate if you feel the need. So I'm sorry also that I'm sniffling a little bit. Somebody pointed that out, that I'm sniffling and it's disgusting. It probably is. I'm sorry. I just don't notice that when I'm in a room looking at my webcam with a light. You don't really notice sniffling. It just kind of happens naturally. So sorry about that. Some allergies coming out as it gets warmer out here and things start to change. So apologize in advance. So Jake Layman saw 6 minutes. Nothing really major there. Like if Mo Harkless doesn't play, Layman probably sees around 10 minutes. He might start the game and not get much run. He only saw 6 in the first half or second half, so let's just say 12. I'm not projecting him for too much in this game. Rodney Hood saw about a 4-minute a 4-minute increase. He played 27 minutes. I imagine he would have only seen 22 minutes, so maybe about a 5-minute increase. If you look at the numbers, he stayed in a little bit longer on his rotations. Aminu, he also saw a pretty big increase in the second half. We're used to Mo Harkless seeing about 34 minutes. Harkless was going to see about 4 more minutes in the first half. Aminu took up some of those minutes. So did Rodney Hood. So Hood's actually saw probably around 7 more minutes in this game. 27, he usually sees around 20. Aminu saw a 4-minute increase. And then you see McCollum. McCollum only sat for 2 minutes in the second half. McCollum played 22 out of the 24 minutes in the second half, partially because of Mo Harkless, so they could run deeper in some other spots, but partially just because he was closing this game. So that's something to keep in mind moving forward. Marcus Smart out today. There's no real update there. I saw something on Twitter just saying that he'll remain out. Malcolm Brogdon, I have him in as doubtful. It's mainly because I didn't see any real change today. They said that after 2 games, and I haven't seen any news, meaning after 2 games, they said that he would probably be reevaluated. He'd miss at least 2 more games. Well, now this is the 3rd game, and we haven't got any updates, so I just have him in as doubtful, but keep an eye on that. Let's move over to the target offense sheet real quick, and I will lower this a little bit. All right, so game number 1, Boston and Milwaukee. And look, we have like a repeat of what happened after game 1, right? Boston blew up Milwaukee game 1. Milwaukee comes back, blows out Boston with a lot of their guys carrying low ownership. Even a lower-priced Eric Bledsoe had lower ownership. Mirotic, who was starting last second, did not have as much ownership as he should on a 2-game slate at 30, whatever, 100, 3,500 he was at. Giannis getting very little ownership. Giannis needed in the winning lineup. The last time these teams played, Boston and Milwaukee were on a slate, I did very well because I went pretty heavy on Milwaukee. I had Bledsoe, Middleton, and Mirotic. I was only a Giannis in for Harden switch away from taking down the whole thing, which I'm sure many people were, finishing 10th in the big tournament, 10th in the 222. So you kick yourself on that, but you don't notice those things, obviously, in hindsight. So let's look at this. 2-point spread, so this should be a close one, as you imagine in the playoffs. 220 total, 111 for Boston, team implied, 109 for Milwaukee. I'm very much interested in a lot of the Boston pieces here. Not so much interested in the Milwaukee pieces. Okay, so I should run that back a little bit. There's obviously interesting guys like Yanis. If you land on a Middleton at 6,800 who's been dominating the first 2 games of the series, I'm fine with it, right? But I'm interested in the guys in Boston because people, just like after Boston dominated Milwaukee, wrote off Milwaukee. The blowout recency bias in the playoffs is real. There's a lot more casuals playing. And there just was not high ownership on Giannis, not high enough ownership on Mirotic, even a cheap Bledsoe, things like that. Draftkings was way too quick to price Bledsoe down. Things of that nature. I'm interested in pretty much, I think, the entire starting 5 on Boston, based on price points, based on bounce back ownership, things like that. So Kyrie Irving played terrible. He was like 0 of 7 to start that game. He played absolutely dreadful. He didn't get a full run because of blowout. He should play normally like 36 minutes, but he did not play that full run. I imagine after going into Popcorn Machine that he plays 36 minutes at a minimum if this game stays close down the stretch with the opportunity to play around 38. I like Kyrie today at a little bit less ownership. I have him getting there in terms of value, projected right now for around 45, 46 fantasy points. He's not a guy who will always get to his ceiling, right? But he's not priced like that. The guys who are going to get to their 50 to 60 point ceilings more often are Giannis on this slate, are Giannis and Jokic, and even Damian Lillard, but they're all priced above him. So that's reflected in the price. I do like Kyrie today, mainly because of lower ownership. They're going back to Boston. The guy elevates when he's at home in the playoffs, so this is where I'll kind of target Kyrie. And then there's just a lot of guys who are mispriced. You're going to get Jaylen Brown at 5,200, and I can't seem to get away from him because I don't think he plays less than 35 minutes in a competitive game. He played 36 in the first one. He played 33 in the blowout, and he didn't see the court for like the last 9 minutes of the game. You can imagine in a close game that he's going to play in those last 9 minutes, 4 of them, which would have put him at 37 minutes last night. Look, he's 5,200. He's a shooting guard, but he's a different type of shooting guard, right? He's a shooting guard, small forward hybrid, so he'll go for the rebounds, which is nice to get peripherals from a shooting guard. He's another guy on this Boston team at $5,200. The price isn't changing much, and he's going to continue to play big minutes. For him, it's the minutes. I think people are going to underestimate the amount of minutes he could play. If this game stays close down the stretch, I see no reason why Jaylen Brown can't play 38 minutes in this game. He played 36 in a blowout in the first game. He played 33 in a blowout in the second game where he didn't play most of the fourth quarter. It's tough for me to not like Jaylen Brown here. I don't know if I land on him in most of my lineups, but again, there's a very good possibility that at 5,200, he scores 30 points and you're fine. Moving on to the next guy in Boston, Jason Tatum, 5,400. This is another guy who pops in my models right now. I even tried to juice him down based on the matchup and things like that, but it's all going to depend on what Milwaukee does. If Milwaukee goes to the big lineup once again, and they have Mirotic at the 4 and Giannis at the 3, or it might have been Giannis at the 4, Mirotic at the 3, either way, it's going to push Middleton to the 2. If Middleton's at the 2, well, that's a little bit of a tougher matchup for Jaylen Brown, which Jaylen Brown was a little fine with in the last game, but that also gives me Probably it gives you a tougher matchup for Jaylen Brown, and it gives you a little bit of a better matchup or a lot better matchup for Jason Tatum if Mirotic is on him, right? If you're going to put Mirotic at the 3 on Tatum, yeah, that's a great matchup for Tatum. If it's Giannis at the 3, that's a pretty bad matchup for Tatum, but I imagine Giannis isn't going to defend Tatum in there. So if you get that big starting lineup and Mirotic is going to start at the 3, yeah, it makes me like Tatum more because he's just going to have a better matchup. Overall, Mirotic on the court is a defensive liability, but it's going to allow me to like Tatum more at 5,400. We can look at his projection in a second. I think it's pretty close to 30, which at 5,400, that's pretty good. Now, keeping in mind the guys like Brown, the guys like Tatum, they're at this 54, 52 price point, but they're not guys who carry the biggest ceilings, especially when you factor in the other guys on their team, like Horford, who carries a ceiling, and like Kyrie, who obviously carries a ceiling. So out of these guys, you're just hoping to get value and maybe a little more back, maybe in the mid-30s. You're not really going to get a blow-up 50-point performance. If we move over to the fourth spot, it's another great spot. Marcus Morris, $4,600. The guy was, what, 4,200? Price came down after starting. He starts once again. I don't think he touched the court. At least or Popcorn Machine doesn't have him really touching the court in the fourth quarter. He didn't play a single minute in the fourth quarter. He played 25 minutes in the game, played extremely well, got over 30 fantasy points, and he's $4,600. If he plays in that fourth quarter, he plays 32 minutes. If he plays his normal rotation to close out the game for 7 minutes. So Marcus Morris at 4,600, I don't think I have to tell you this, but he's a great play. It's pretty obvious. 25 minutes was super efficient, and he didn't get his full run. Yeah, I like Marcus Morris once again. 4,600 is way too cheap. And then we get to Al Horford, $7,000. Price comes up $200, and I love Al Horford here. The guy's he's projecting out well. He projects for a touch under 40 for me today. I was not on Al Horford in the last game. He did not get a full run. I don't think he played anything more than a minute in the fourth quarter, if any. So that is the 5 starters from Boston. And you're like, Sal, you just said you like all of them. Yeah, I like all of them. I don't think I've ever done that. So if you're just tuning in today for the first time, I'm sorry. I like all the Boston starters today. And I really don't know how to rank them. If I had to rank them and you made me, based on price, based on ownership, and just overall ceiling and projection, number 1 is going to be Marcus Morris. He's just too cheap. He's $4,600. He's just way too cheap. Number 2 will be Al Horford, $6,800 or $7,000 flat with the power forward eligible spot. I do like that coming home to Boston. 3 is Kyrie, and those guys with Horford and Kyrie are going to outweigh Tatum and Brown, mainly, both because of their actual pure scoring, but because of the ceilings they carry on them. But I think point per dollar, Marcus Morris gives you, again, if he goes for 35 at 4,600, it's smashing, and there's no reason he can't do that when he's going to play probably 32 minutes today in a close game. Number 4, I probably go 2 Jason Tatum and then 5 Brown. But again, keep in mind I like all these guys, and that Tatum and Brown thing can very well get flip-flopped, and it's all going to really determine on who the Bucks start. I project the Bucks to go with a similar lineup since they dominated with that lineup in the last game, or at least that's what the results say, right? So off the bench here, don't really factor in Tyree Rozier playing 25 minutes. That was because he got blowout run. He should only really be playing 19 or 20 minutes. Gordon Hayward, he played 31 in the last game, played some blowout run, probably gets 30 to 32 minutes. He's fine. Not a guy that I'm going to prioritize off the bench, but he is fine. Let's go to the Milwaukee side. Bledsoe, price comes up a little bit. You could still go back to Bledsoe. This is not the spot that I want to target him. I don't want to target Bledsoe in a game after he was super efficient, right? He only played like 25 minutes because of the blowout, and he scored like 35 fantasy points after only having like 4 in the first quarter fantasy points. He was super efficient. I don't want to target him in a game right after that now when he's going on the road, and he's not going to be as up for this game, I would imagine. And the price comes up, and probably ownership comes up with it. Middleton, I think he's the same price, if not, he was $6,400 in the last game. Middleton is the guy on this team that I'm going to be very neutral to, and I was in the last game, although I ended up getting him. $6,800, I prefer paying $200 more for Al Horford, who will be playing center today and just have more overall opportunities than Middleton, who I project to play shooting guard. Middleton's been shooting lights out in this series. He's been playing very well. I probably don't get there today at $6,800. I'm neutral. If you get him there as the last guy in your lineup, fine. Mirotic, if Mirotic's starting at the 3, and I'm going position by position, he might be a lock. He has to be a lock button today. If Mirotic starts at the 3 or the 4, if he's starting today, he's a lock button. This guy played 25 minutes after getting in early foul trouble. 4 minutes into the game, he had 2 fouls, and then he didn't come back until like midway through the second. So I project him to play at a minimum 28 minutes today. I have him in right now for 30 minutes. If he's starting, I don't see why in the playoffs this guy's not going to get out there for 30 plus minutes, unless it's just because he's that bad on defense, which I don't think so. In foul trouble, you still got a 35 or 33 point performance fantasy-wise from Mirotic at $3,500. His price comes up to only $3,900. If he's starting today, I like him. Even if he's not starting, I do have interest at $3,900. But starting, he's likely a lock button today because what does he have to do for you? He's going to start. He's a 1.1 fantasy point per minute guy. I have him in this game at a 1.05 fantasy point per minute guy just because of the matchup a little bit. But really, if he starts at the 3, the matchup is not that bad. You kind of avoid Marcus Morris. So Although I would rather him start at the 4 because he does have the block and steal upside, and there's just going to be more opportunities there. So Mirotic 3,900, as close to a lock button as it gets. This slate looks very similar to the last one, where I like Mirotic because he's cheap in the 3K range, and I like Marcus Morris because he's cheap in the 4K range, and both probably see big minutes, and both are productive based on their price points for those minutes. Yanis, always an interest on a 2-game slate. Giannis is always an interest. The game after he scores 55, and I think he was the points leader for that slate when nobody was on him. I'm just seeing Kyrie as that guy today a little bit. So I might not get to as much Giannis, especially when Jokic has just an overall better matchup and the same price point. But if later in the day we're starting to see the ownership is like all over Jokic once again, and Giannis is not getting as much as he should, I'm fine going right back there. I'm just a little bit more hesitant than last time because Giannis is clearly going to have some better things said about him today, and all these media outlets, including myself right now, although I said good things about him in the last game or last spot. So you might not get as good leverage on the field in a 2-game slate. Brook Lopez, no real interest, although I should point out $4,700 for Brook Lopez is extremely nice. Ersan Ilyasova, the fact that Mirotic is going to play some big minutes is going to hurt Ersan. He played 17 in the last game, but he did finish out the game with the blowout run, although he was going to get that rotation most likely anyways. But I think Ersan only plays 15 or 16 if Mirotic gets this big run as I project. Pat Connaughton off the bench, saw elevated minutes because of the blowout, saw like 30. He probably only sees 24. In this game. And if Malcolm Brogdon comes back for some reason, then Pat Connaughton's pretty much wiped off the planet Earth. Sterling Brown only got 13 minutes, I believe. They don't want him. He's just not being productive. He's kind of a waste of space on the court. Connaughton at 3,700, you can go there. You can very easily go there. Once again, I prefer Mirotic, the guy who's a better point per minute, going to be playing closer to the rim and just probably starting and playing more minutes. But you can go to Pat Connaughton as well. It probably has less ownership on him at $3,700. I just don't want to go there because this guy can very easily play, if it doesn't blow out, 22 to 23 minutes. And if he's not knocking down shots, he could score you 16 fantasy points, and that's not going to get you there probably. Next game. That was a lot to discuss. The Boston guys, I love them. I just like the suppressed ownership. I like the fact that they're going back home now, and pretty much that was a win, 1-1, right? Taking one game from the number 1 seed at their home court, especially in the way they did it. So now going back home, they're probably going to have the suppressed ownership. Not a lot of people, especially game log watchers, will look at them. If you're going to stack a game, I prefer stacking this early game. The total indicates that. The spread somewhat indicates that. But I just like the fact that you'll get probably a lot of pieces from Boston that won't be as owned as they should be. Portland and Denver, 99.31 pace here. Very slow. This is a slow pace series just in general. Both teams play below the league average. 4.5-point favorites is Portland as they go back to Portland. They're tied now 1-1 in the series. I was very surprised to see the way Jokic played in the last game. Still played like fine, but was much more pass first, which for a center, he actually is pretty pass first, best passing center of all time, in my opinion. But that's what the Blazers want him to do. They know that he's a mismatch inside. They want to make him pass the ball, and he was. He was feeding right into what they want to do. So I'd like to see an adjustment today out of Jokic. That's why I have a lot of interest in him. Portland, 110 team implied total. Denver, 105.5, lowest on the slate for Denver. So starting with Portland. Yeah, Damian Lillard's fine at 9,300. I don't have as much interest. I didn't have as much interest a few days ago in Damian Lillard, and it really didn't hurt me. I just don't have interest in Lillard because of some other things I want to do on this slate. I want to get one of the pay-up spots, at least early on. I want to get either a Giannis or a Jokic, and if I'm going to build multiple lineups, I'll have some of each. I want to get more so a cheaper Kyrie than a Damian here. Damian's going to play more minutes. Damian likely sees on average like 5 more minutes tonight than Kyrie will if you run this out 100 times, maybe even 6. But I'm fine with that. There's a tougher matchup for Damian Lillard tonight, in my opinion. Yes, Bledsoe's pretty tough, but Kyrie has gotten his way with Bledsoe for the most part outside of this last game, out of 5 games on a year. And also, it's just an ownership thing. So we'll see what the ownership looks like, and also fitting in salary, like your lineups, actually building them. Can you get there by playing Dame? I don't know. McCollum played extremely well in the last game, played 40 minutes. If Mo Harkless is out, I believe that gives McCollum a little bit of a bump. He probably sees a floor lock of like 2 minutes, which is pretty big in the playoffs when you factor in there's not a lot of guys to pick from. And if he's going to average over a point per minute, well, there's your 2 to 3 to 4 more fantasy points, and that's pretty big on a 2-game slate. Slight interest in McCollum. I'll have to see how my lineups start building out. He does project out well for me in terms of meeting value. The mid to high 30s right now, if I do recall, around 36 fantasy points is what I have him projected for. Mo Harkless, if he's in, I have interest, but I would have to know that he's in with no minutes limit. People are going to just see the 13 minutes. People are going to see injured, and they're going to kind of shy away from that. I'm fine going there. If he's out, well, then, yeah, McCollum becomes more attractive for me, and Aminu becomes very attractive, a guy who should see elevated minutes in the 34-minute range if there's no Mo Harkless, if not more. Evan Turner would pick up some minutes, but he's not that interesting to me. Only saw 16 in the last game. Jake Layman would pick up some minutes. It depends on if he's starting, because then I could project him for closer to like 18 minutes, and then he starts to come and play. Outside of that, it's Cantor for me. Cantor's way too cheap at 6,300. Cantor's playing extremely well for being injured, and it might not be on the defensive side, but he's holding his own for the most part, as good as he can. 6,300, playing with a bum shoulder, but playing really well on offense. I like Cantor here today at $6,300. He's probably my favorite Trailblazer. Guys off the bench for the Trailblazers just aren't standing out to me. I don't really want Seth Curry. I don't really want, like I said, Evan Turner. Rodney Hood, interesting. If you're going to get no Mo Harkless, yeah, Rodney Hood, based on the fact that he can score, they're playing him a little bit more in the series, plays some defense. Rodney Hood should play around 25 minutes, which you can go back to. I just feel like it's a little point chasey. I'm hoping Aminu is in so we don't have to throw darts at these guys. Right now for me, it's Enes Kanter, and then everybody else kind of just blends together for me in terms of point per dollar and the rest of the slate. 6,300 for Kanter's too cheap. Going to Denver, the Denver side of the ball, there's some things that I do like. We'll start with the point guard, Jamal Murray. I do like him. Price comes down a little bit. He's playing big minutes. In games that he has to close out, he likely plays 35, 36 minutes in this series. And he's doing fine with his matchup, whether it's Dame, whether it's McCollum. So I think he's fine if you get him in. Shooting guard eligible is nice here. He's averaging over a point per minute in the playoffs. I have him today right around 1.03 points per minute, right around 35 minutes. So if you add that up, he's going to be getting like 36 fantasy points for me today. That's pretty good at $6,300. 6xing. So Gary Harris, no real interest in Gary Harris today, and this feels like a spot to jump on Gary Harris. Hasn't been doing much, but he still gets the minutes, played 40 in the last one, and he's going to shoot. He's going to shoot threes. He's a shooting guard. It just depends. Does Gary Harris knock down 3 of his threes, or does he knock down like 0 or 1, I believe like he did in the last game when Denver just couldn't make a 3 at all. So Gary Harris, in terms of tournaments, I think he's a fine play. Got to check the price actually on this one. 4,900. His price just isn't changing, and he's just not doing stuff, right? 4,900, 4,800, and he's just not really doing much. But I do like Gary Harris, 0 for 5 from 3. So yeah, if he knocks down 2 of those instead of 0, then yeah, he's in the mid-20s again. So I do think Gary Harris is fine in tournaments. I probably just don't get there based on the price point. I think I want to go lower than that or higher than that. But we shall see. The 3, I imagine Torrey Craig starts today. The guy's tough. He played with a broken nose. Now, maybe things got worse since the last game, which maybe they should, right? I mean, things are going to happen. The nose swells up a little bit more, probably some more pain, but he could take some medication, wear the mask. In terms of him individually, that mask is probably going to affect him. He's still going to be out there for defensive purposes. I don't really want much Torrey Craig today. The guy can't score in general. Now he's going to be playing with a broken nose. It just seems a little bit iffy to me. Don't really want any Will Barton, who they were reluctant to give extra minutes even with Torrey Craig injured for those 6, 7, 8 minutes. Malik Beasley got those minutes. So Beasley is in play for me. You can go there, but I think too many people are going to jump on him thinking the 28 and 27 minutes are something that they aren't. And maybe I'm wrong. I try to back this up with Popcorn Machine and see the game flow. I could have very well interpreted it wrong, but in game one, Torrey Craig got in foul trouble, and that opened up the way for Malik Beasley to pick up like an extra 7 minutes, which gave him 28 instead of his normal 20 to 21. The last game, Torrey Craig came out for some time in the third quarter, a good amount of time, and a good amount of time in the second quarter. He pretty much missed a rotation where he would have played 7 to 8 minutes, and that ended up giving Malik Beasley some time there, who played 27 minutes. So I just think these elevated minutes are a little fake. I think Beasley is going to continue to see 20, and I think the ownership is going to reflect him playing 27, 28, which again, Torrey Craig is injured. It could happen today. I just don't want to jump on it right now because I don't trust in those numbers. Denver then, Paul Millsap, fine. He's still going to dominate in this matchup against Aminu, whoever it is. He's just too big. I think Millsap is a safe play all the time here. Let's just check Millsap's price. 5,600. The price quickly comes back up after Millsap was in the 4K range, right? So 5,600 now becomes interesting to think about, but I still think it's too fine. I have him averaging in this series right around 30 fantasy points, and right now he's averaging around 34. So pretty good. Jokic, my favorite play in terms of paying up on the slate. I think Kyrie is then after that in that next tier of guys where there's the Damian Lillard and Kyrie pretty much. I like Jokic over Giannis. I like Harden over Giannis. The last time out, it didn't really work. I think Giannis plays fine today. I don't think that it's just he played bad in the first game, played well in the second game, now he has to play bad. No. So it depends. You can pretty much have either one. Which one do you want to play today, Jokic or Giannis? I just like the fact that Jokic played really well in the last game, and he wasn't trying to go scoring first, and he should. He pretty much gave what the defense was giving him, and that's not a good thing. He should have forced his way to the basket or just forced matchups against Kanter when he didn't. He was passed first, and his team literally couldn't make a three-pointer. We just had Gary Harris 0 for 5. They missed like 13 in a row at one point or something crazy like that. So, yeah, I like Jokic because I think that even though he played well in the last game, he should have had like 20 more fantasy points if he would have just Had some teammates knock down some shots for him. Like he should have had easily 5 more assists. He should have potentially squared up a couple of times more against Cantor. So maybe not 20 more fantasy points, but easily 10, probably 15. So yeah, I do like Jokic there. Other than that, nothing really standing out. I will go back to Portland. Zach Collins off the bench should see around 17 to 20 minutes. I have him at 18 minutes today. That's still pretty good at $3,000. There's always the opportunity that Portland or Cantor playing with a bum shoulder re-injures it, gets in foul trouble. But either way, you're still going to get those solid center minutes out of Collins. Tough matchup, but at $3,000, you can't really ask for much more. That's it. I'll go to these early interests real quick. The value's not pulling over, but that's fine. I just didn't run the VLOOKUP yet for it today. If you want the value, you can go to the projections on Patreon. Shout out, humble brag. So let's make this a little bit bigger. They're in no ranking order. They're kind of just based on what I was seeing. So as I was going down and just discovering things while I was making this today, we could rank them or just kind of do this by salary here. Got to get a haircut today. What time is it? 8:25, not bad. Just checking up on the bogeys today and the birdies. What do we got here? Any of my guys do anything good for me? Nothing yet. Nothing yet. Terrible. Sorry. Wow, lots of things going on. Damn, really, none of my guys birdied or bogeyed yet. I think I only got one guy going, so that's why. Probably looking at a 5 to 6 making the cut, if that means anything to any of you guys. Getting a guy double bogeying twice yesterday really hurts. But Jokic 10-3 and Yanis. So you're going to say, Sal, once again, you have all the expensive guys. No, I don't. Where's Damian Lillard? But I'm kidding. Yeah, I do. It's a 2-game slate. Obviously, if you don't have Jokic or Yanis tonight, if you don't play one of them, you're going to have a very contrarian lineup. And you might be able to win with that, but I highly doubt it because those are the 2 guys on the slate that have a ceiling in the 70s or really honestly in the 80s. And those are the 2 guys on the slate that will get to 55 fantasy points much more than anybody else in the slate. Like probably, I don't know, they get to 55 fantasy points realistically like 60% of the time, like 50% of the time maybe 60% is too high. That's what it seems like when Kyrie and Dame are going to get there. I don't know, 20% of the time, 1 out of 5 games, they'll get to 55 fantasy points. Probably more so Dame, Kyrie, maybe a little bit less. Either way, I like these guys. I like Kyrie. Like I said, I like the whole Boston starting 5. I literally put all of them here. They're all either underpriced for the amount of minutes they're playing. They're going to be under-owned based on the last time out. I just like the $8,500 Kyrie. That stands out so much. He has to get you 43 fantasy points to hit value. He played terrible in the last game. You think Kyrie's just going to continue to shoot like 10% from the field, like in the first half? No. Now he's back home. I like this. Al Horford, $7,000. Price only comes up $200. He's going to be out there for, in a close game, 36 minutes plus. Yeah, I like that too. And he's going to have the block and steal upside. He's been playing Yanis extremely well, avoiding fouls. That scares me because eventually that might regress the other way, but he's just a good defender. McCollum at $6,600. I do prefer to his price. You save $2,700 off of Damian Lillard. And really, for the most part, obviously, Lillard the better guy for floor and ceiling. But McCollum does have that 50-point ceiling in him. Jamal Murray, $6,400. I think it said he was 63, so my mistake. I like him. I like Cantor at 63. My favorite piece from the Portland game is Cantor. Tatum, Brown, Morris, all those Boston guys are right there. Al-Farouq Aminu, didn't really touch on him too much, $4,400. Should see elevated minutes if Mo Harkless is out. If Mo Harkless is in, my interest in Aminu goes down, but the fact that he played terrible in the last game might drive a lot of people off of him. But keep in mind, this matchup is brutal. Paul Millsap, Mason Plumlee, Nikola Jokic. Aminu was overmatched. So the only way I like him is if he's going to get those extra 4 minutes guaranteed because Harkless is out. Nikola Mirotic should be a lock button. I'm going to be completely honest. $3,900 Nikola Mirotic, if there is word that he's starting and the lineups are remaining the same, so pretty much just Brogdon is out. I imagine they go to the same lineup. Yeah, Nikola Mirotic at $3,900 is a lock button. He gets you 22 fantasy points and you're happy. He's going to play a minimum of 28 minutes if he starts. He averages over a fantasy point per minute. He would have to have a very bad night for not to get you 22 fantasy points at $3,900. Now, his ownership being elevated might mean he needs to do a little more for you. But there's no reason that in a full game of 30 minutes, he doesn't score 30-plus fantasy points again. He did it in 25 with foul trouble in the last one. I imagine he does it pretty easily. If he gets 30 to 32 minutes, he gets you 25 or more fantasy points. Pat Connaughton at $3,700, just another value option. He'll be lower owned, especially since a guy on his team in Mirotic should cover the higher ownership. Zach Collins at $3,000. Price comes up a little bit here. It was like $2,700. But I have him projected for 18 minutes today. That only gives him around 15 fantasy points. But look, he can go either way. He can go to 20 fantasy points. He can go to 10. So $3,000, you're taking a risk there. But if you really want to fit in some 2 or 3 maybe of the expensive guys, going to Zach Collins and a Mirotic, it makes some sense to me, especially since they're both power forward eligible. So yeah, that is it. That is a 2-game slate. I'm happy we are back. Hit me with a like if you can right now. If you have not already, hit me with a thumbs up. That's the same exact thing. Duh. Subscribe if you have not already. I'm going to watch some golf. I'm going to get this video uploaded for you guys and girls. Probably do a live stream as it uploads. So yeah, thank you so much. My name is Sal. Best of luck tonight, everybody. Peace out, gang.